Let the bass kick.
What's up, Music City? What up? What up? What up? What up? This thing on? Heh. Yo, welcome to episode 81 of the Music City Disc Golf Podcast. My name is Will, and it's May 18th, 2020. We've got a cool show for you tonight. We are going to be talking to Mr. Mark Oxer, former guest of the podcast. This gentleman went on a journey trying to make an attempt at a Guinness World Record for most courses played in a year. And we had him in town here in Nashville. He played Seven Oaks. He played, I believe, Triple Creek and a couple other courses on his journey to this Guinness World Record. And he's a really interesting dude. He's got a crazy resume with athletic training and sports medicine and all sorts of stuff. He's a soccer aficionado as well, and he's an instructor and a coach. He's got his hands in a lot of pies, and we're going to talk to him about a bunch of that tonight as well. But first, what's up, Michael? What's up, Zach? Thank you guys for joining us. So let's get right into the weekly breakdown. Go ahead and give it to me. Breakdown. All right. On Saturday, every Saturday we shuffle the Music City Shuffle with Zach Evans. I believe that's back. That's coming back. But that may have changed. I haven't seen a post. I know Zach has been dealing with a whole lot of things in the real world lately. But as far as I understand, if it's not already come back, then it's about to. He has intentions to bring that back and start shuffling again. Also on Saturday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Seven Oaks, random draw doubles with Dr. John Williams. That is coming back this coming Saturday, the 23rd, and we're excited to see that. Dr. John was showing me an app that he found that's going to assist in RTDs that are running random draw double stuff in pairing people up without having to get everybody huddled in and passing cards and poker chips and all that good stuff around. So, Seven Oaks afternoon doubles on Saturdays is coming back this coming Saturday. Look forward to that. Sunday, we've got Seven Oaks singles coming back the very next day on the 24th with Q-Tip. So look forward to that as well. It's a 9 o'clock round on Saturdays. Tags are on the line. And I believe Robert, Big Z, just put out another post. Cane Ridge Random Draw Doubles will be coming back for sure on June 14th. Sunday, June 14th. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, $20 a team. They're going to be going to bring your own partner doubles format for a while to assist with the obvious restrictions and stuff that we're going to have to operate under for coronavirus. Cool. I'm just checking there to see if Jay had joined me yet. Also, Monday, we got Squamcher's Ferry Doubles, which has moved over to a singles format for the time being, and that should be going on tonight. I know Russell made a post trying to get a feel of who was planning on coming, but that's back on Monday nights, and they started off with a $200 ace pot. Now it's at $210. So great googly moogly, get you some money. Tuesdays, big news this week. Tuesday night doubles with Dave Griffin at Seven Oaks is coming back. Not sure what the ace pot is on that, but he also, I believe, is going to be employing that new app or software that's going to relieve a lot of the headache of drawing partners for random draw doubles. So $12 all in at the Oaks. You guys know the drill. This one's been running for years, so it's one of our favorites. Come out and play. Get you some money. Also on Tuesdays, back in action, Triple Creek doubles in Gallatin at Triple Creek Park. That's with Case and Newton. That has already made its comeback, and the ace there is sitting right at $250. So get you some money. And Wednesday night, the Wednesday night tag extravaganza. That's coming back on June 3rd, so right around the corner with me and Dr. Hoy. So make plans to be coming out on June 3rd to check out the WNT. We're going to be doing some interesting things for social distancing. We're going to be sending groups of 4 out as they show up. You know, interesting things like that. Still planning on doing CTPs, and we'll let that ace pot go capless, see how big it can get before somebody smashes it. So come on back to the WNT. Cedar Hill Doubles, I believe, is coming back this week, or if it hasn't already come back last week, with Billy Fowler and company, 5 o'clock at Cedar Hill on Wednesday nights. Can't watch the feed at the same time. Cool. I like to check and make sure nobody's correcting me now that we're live. It's helpful. You guys got to keep me on my toes. I say all kinds of crazy stuff. Also on Wednesday night, Duck River Disc Golf runs random draw doubles at Henry Horton State Park. Lately, they've been rotating back and forth between Horton and a new course in Lewisburg. Newest course in Lewisburg. Say that 5 times fast. Collins Creek Flyway. So when they're at Horton, you guys, they've got 2 bounties for over $400 each and another one over $300. And they've got a straight up ace pot at Collins Creek Flyway that should be at or above $100. So yeah, Wednesday is cash heavy. Y'all go get you some money. You heard it here. Thursday night, coming back with a vengeance this week. Kobe, White House random draw doubles with Lance Kirby. 5 o'clock, White House Park. You guys know the drill. Go out there and get you some money. And the newest addition to the weekly breakdown, the weekend kickoff on Friday nights with Jordan Webster. I believe that's 5 o'clock round, and they are heading on over to Cedar Hill to get prepared for the bag tag. And Lance told me today that him and Billy and everybody has been out there trying to get the course in bag tag layout, which is going to be crazy, insane, awesome. So it should be mostly in bag tag formation, and they've been out there weed eating, so I'm sure it's looking great. Those guys take great care of Cedar Hill. So that's your weekly breakdown, guys. Make sure you go out there and get you some money. Yeah, guys, lots of cool stuff. In the last couple days, you've probably seen the PDGA has released its 5-step process to a return to sanctioning. So that's something that's been interesting. There's a few states and a couple Canadian provinces, maybe Canadian provinces, but overseas in Europe, there's some countries that have been added to the list. But for most of us, it's the process seems a little more difficult than we kind of had hoped it would be. Hey, everybody. This is Mark. So, okay, he can hear us. Never mind. I was going to talk a bunch of smack while he couldn't hear me. Still not getting any audio from you, Mark. Cool. I'll carry on. Just sound off whenever you think you've got it. You should be able to. There should be an option to join with computer audio or internet audio. But yeah, so return to PDGA sanctioning. Arkansas apparently just does not give a flying care in the world, and they were breezed right on in there like turkey crap through a tin horn. Shout out to Matt Lloyd, the homie at Dynamic Discs Arkansas, for his ability to return to sanctioned events. We've got our calendar picking back up here at the beginning of June, so we're going to carry forward with our events as we have discussed. And the next one that we have that's sanctioned is the Seven Oaks Summer Solstice on June 20th, and that's scheduled to be a seats here. But if they have not given Tennessee the authorization to move forward with sanctioning, then we'll run it unsanctioned, I suppose. I've been talking to H.B. Clark because he's got the Tennessee State Championships coming up the same weekend as our bag tag. And he's been caught in between a rock and a hard place trying to decide how to carry on with that, because Tennessee has got a weird scenario where we basically, the state of Tennessee kind of defers to 6 of the counties within it in terms of any kind of health crisis, because those 6 counties contain the biggest cities, and they have their own independent health departments. So Davidson County happens to be one of those counties, and it is. Oh, I hear Mark.
Can you hear me all right?
I hear you. I can't see you now.
All right, I'll be back. There we go.
Wait.
Good.
Oh, boom. We got it. Nailed it. Quality podcasting right there. What's up,
Sweet.
dude? Everybody say hello to Mark Oxer. Mark Oxer, everybody.
Hey guys, you can keep going. I like hearing what you have to say about Arkansas. It's pretty awesome.
It would be awesome to be in Arkansas right now and be able to play disc golf. Yeah,
What
it's just I don't know what it looks like in Canada right now. What have they been telling you guys?
so right now, most of the provinces have opened up disc golf. The government health authorities, for the way it works is sort of it's left up to the province, each individual province. Most of the provinces, I believe, now are starting to open up and allow disc golf as a safe activity because you're handling your own equipment.
Yeah.
So I saw my sister, she lives actually just south of Atlanta, and she sent me a video today about people being allowed to play tennis, and it was about handling your own balls and kicking other balls, and oh man. Anyways,
Okay.
so anyways, with the so yeah, the provinces have opened up disc golf as part of the stage one for reopening and allowing people to play the sport. Uh, as far as I know, I don't think anywhere in Canada has opened up sanctioning yet for it, but I think we should be able to start down that journey pretty quickly.
I couldn't remember. For some reason, I always think Canada is included on these lists or different places in Canada, but it was like Iceland and Lithuania and a couple others that were added to the list already.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
nobody. I mean, here, Nashville, at least here in Tennessee, the southern states, I think, were kind of given more of a push. But here in Nashville, it seems like everybody's in a big hurry to get everything open. So I'm assuming that as long as there's not a drastic spike in new cases come, early mid June, that they'll probably start moving into phase 2, phase 3 of the reopening, and we'll probably be okay. I really feel for people like HB Clark at this time, who has a big eight-year going on the first weekend in June. No idea if he's going to be able to continue with the sanctioning that he had planned. So
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, for us, it's we somewhat, I could almost say, somewhat maybe more that imperative that we get going soon because we can't really play in the winter time. Like we go outside and we play casual rounds in the winter, but there's off like if you're playing winter rounds, you're playing literally in knee deep snow, right? So it's not the same. So we really want to get rounds going so we can actually have sanctioned events during the summer because we can't play year round.
yeah, that's a bummer. That's yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of like get in where you fit in or forever hold your peace for you guys right now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's a drag. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was the soapbox that I was on while we were getting you on the show. It's that's been basically what has consumed my existence for the last week, trying to get all our ducks in a row for the Music City Open and get our return to organized play going on. We had, Dr. Hoy and I and the members of the board, we'd been deliberating about this since we suspended play back in March in terms of like going ahead and trying to formulate a plan then for what it would look like to start playing again when we were allowed. And
Yeah.
at any given point, it seems like the most strict restrictions, as far as even before phase 1 of the reopening began, were, for citizens, it was no more than 10 people or less, 10 or more were not allowed in any one place. And so that was the magic number that we used. And we just came up with a list of protocols that would allow us to have an event and never have any groups of 10 and never have anybody close to each other and stuff like that. So I've spoken with the folks at Metro Parks, and they've given us the go ahead to return to play. Now it's just a matter of convincing the PDGA because they're looking for a statewide lifting of the suspension
Right.
on all sporting events. That's kind of the
Right.
criteria that they're judging it by, and who knows
Okay.
when that'll be. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's we just on Thursday of last week, the provincial government allowed outdoor gatherings of 50 people. So, I mean, we could host things like league play or even smaller events if we spaced out tee times and used like digital scorecards or digital payouts, digital registration, um, that kind of stuff. Like I think it's logistically manageable. And I mean, it's always perspective on things, right? Like if you look at, I was just reading an article over this past weekend about how there didn't used to be a lot of, this was obviously like decades ago. There wasn't a lot that was done with buildings and how they were built to prevent fires and like how firefighters address situations and all that kind of stuff when the Great Fire happened, right? And then since that happened, it was a massive trauma event. Fire codes change and practice changes and all those kind of things changes, and it really helped to sort of push fire prevention and addressing fires for buildings and that kind of stuff in a positive direction. And I think that it can have a similar impact within our sport, particularly, right? Like moving things to I know there's been a little bit of a push for the digital scorecards, but this could be a little bit help kind of push that along. And um, different, like I said, for payouts and stuff. I know that there's been events that I've done where you can actually accumulate your prize money over the course of a series of events. So if you play in a tour event, you can actually accumulate your prize money over the course of that tour, and then if you wanted to cash it out virtually through one of the retail vendors, you could save up and get a basket, or instead of just getting $50 here and $50 there and trying to cash out and get 4 or 5 discs at each tournament. And so I think there's some really cool stuff that can always come from this. So
Yeah,
excited.
absolutely. I mean, we have a similar arrangement here with our annual bag tag series. We partner with the Nashville Disc Golf Store, and so all of our amateurs they receive typically vouchers to the Nashville Disc Golf Store that you can accumulate, throughout the year. They expire on December 31st. With the COVID-19 pandemic, the Nashville Disc Golf Store has finally opened up their web store and it's fully functional. They've got their full inventory on it. And so we're going to carry forward that same kind of a process, but now we can actually do it digitally,
Right.
which is awesome. That's the kind of thing that we've been pushing towards as far as just making more and more of our operations digital over time. And this is just one more piece in that puzzle, which there's several things like that this whole pandemic has kind of pushed along in a certain way, and one of those being, you mentioned digital scoring. Over the last year, the PDGA adding the digital live scoring functionality to the tournament manager, so that's been huge for us. Running C tiers and stuff like that, we can set up a monitor and have a leaderboard, and we can use all those cool features. But we've been trying to, nail down something that we can use in that way for unsanctioned stuff. And I've been in
Right.
contact with Matt and the guys at UDisc, and we've enrolled in the beta for UDisc leagues, which is
Nice.
going to, at some point in the near future, I believe, roll out and give you the opportunity to have that same kind of live leaderboard functionality for unsanctioned stuff, which is exciting.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, I had a chance to use the live sort of leaderboard app when I was playing in an event in the Netherlands, and I really appreciated the fact that I could be like, okay, I can just lay this hole up, take the par, and move on, because I saw what the previous this guy had done, and I know I'm still 2 strokes ahead of him, so I don't really have to try to run that birdie. And like, it allows you to play the game a little bit more, and like game sort of within the game. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super cool. We had at one of our C tiers towards the end of last year, at a private course, we had our tournament central set up inside part of the house that we call the annex. It's basically like the clubhouse. We had the monitor set up in there, and so people would come in and ask to see a certain division, and we could just pop it up right on the monitor, and
Okay.
everybody could come in and check in and see who was doing what. People get into it. People get excited about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I enjoy that kind of stuff. Yeah, I really enjoy that kind of stuff. So hopefully it can move forward with that. I know that there's always going to be a little bit of resistance to change and whatever it happens to be. But I think if it's done in a positive way, in a constructive way, and you can help bring people along, I think it'll be good overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's, I mean, the overall goal of what we do as administrators or promoters is to give people more of what they want. And in addition
Yeah.
to being more efficient and more sustainable, all this digital functionality, it really just enhances the experience for the participants. And
Yeah.
they're more hands free. They don't have as many things to keep up with. If they have their phone somewhere in their bag, they can do everything they need to do. And
Yeah.
great
Yeah. For sure.
innovations.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Looking.
no, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no. I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be cool to see where. I mean, imagine where we're going to be in 5 years. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
But question of the hour. We had you on the show. Some of you that are watching probably remember we had Mark on the show. I don't even remember. It's been like a year now. But when you were
Yeah. It's getting close. It's getting close to that. Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't even remember how long it's been. But you passed through Nashville, making your run at the Guinness World Record for most courses played in a year.
Yeah.
So, for anybody that missed that or is unaware of what you were trying to do, give a quick Cliff Notes version of what led up to it and catch us up on how that went after we saw you here in town.
Yeah. So in 2012, Larry Kirk set out to play 50 courses in 50 states in 50 days. And I believe he achieved that and played. He also at the same time submitted his travel attempt for a Guinness record. And so Guinness counted 54 courses during that time that he played to set the Guinness record at 54 courses. He played in that time period. He played, I believe, he played 87 courses, but only 54 of them counted to the record. And if this is just a caveat. If anybody else wants to try to break the record, I fully endorse people to have at her. It was a really awesome experience. The administration and paperwork that you have to do alongside of it is not fun. But yeah, so my buddy and I started playing disc golf just a couple of years ago, and we both came from a pretty competitive sport background, playing a reasonably high level hockey here in Canada. And it was actually while watching a hockey game, Winnipeg Jets, that's my hometown's home city team. We were watching a Winnipeg Jets game, uh, and it came up in between periods. I think it was around Valentine's Day, and we were just like, I wonder what the record is for the most courses played in a year. Because what we've been doing is we've been traveling down to events during that season. We've been driving a lot to the States because we don't have a ton of events here in Canada. So we've been driving down to the States. And then as we were making that drive, we were stopping at various little courses along the way. So we'd stop off this 9-hole course and this 18-hole course and this 9-hole course, and then playing a tournament, 2 or 3 rounds. And then on the drive back, we'd stop at another course, another course, another course. And over the course of we'd leave Friday sort of morning, get back late Sunday night, sometimes early Monday morning, and we'd have played 100 holes of golf, and only probably 36 holes sometimes would have been sanctioned rounds, and the rest were just us exploring and getting to know the sport a little bit more. So our curiosity kind of got the better of us, and we were like, "What's the record? There's got to be some kind of record for this." And so came across Larry's record, and I was like, that's a beatable record. That's definitely some. I don't know if you looked up some Guinness records. I mean, I say
Clearly,
that with a caveat.
some people just have them because they were there and nobody else had tried yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that said, I actually have participated in 2 other Guinness record attempts in my life. I currently do hold one Guinness record. That's Settlers of Catan related, not disc golf related.
We're going to talk about that too. So.
And yeah, so then I submitted my application to Guinness to attempt the record, and they approved it. And so I set out on the journey. It's a 365-day journey, so it's not necessarily from like January 1 to January 1. It's from kind of when you get that approval to move forward. So I set out that journey. May 5th was the date that I had. So from May 5th to May 5th, and just set out to play as many rounds as possible according to the Guinness standards. And so what that is you have to either play a 9-hole course for 2 rounds or an 18-hole course. You can't play a 6-hole course 3 times. You can't play a 21-hole course and knock 3 holes off. You can't play like a 15-hole course or a 12-hole course and then add 6 or whatever it is. You have to play either 9 or 18 and then do 9 twice. You have to have multiple witnesses available, video and photographs of each of those rounds, signed documents from the local authorities, disc golf authorities. So like you signed off on some documents for me when I was there, some signed scorecards. Yeah, just really a lot of sort of documentation to prove that you actually did what you say you did. Because Guinness isn't obviously traveling around with me while I was doing this. And yeah, I had the opportunity to play over 100 different courses in 7 different countries. So unofficially, I've broken the record, and I'm waiting to submit that documentation to Guinness at this point. Due to COVID, it prevented me from playing because we weren't allowed, because of needing witnesses and having to play and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't able to achieve the regulations that Guinness sets out. So I wrote to Guinness and asked that due to COVID if I could have an extension, and I'm still waiting to hear back. So might be able to add a few more rounds to that. But if not, like I said, unofficially, I've broken the record. And so we just have to wait and see how many of those courses Guinness approves. Whether or not I officially get the record, I mean, obviously I'd like to have it. But the journey was absolutely incredible. The journey was absolutely incredible. So, and that's partly why I would encourage people to do it is the journey. And I know that there's guys in Finland, like a guy in Finland messaged me on Instagram and was like, I've played over 450 courses. And I was like, dude, that's freaking incredible. And I know with like,
but you didn't fill out the paperwork.
Right. And so, I mean, I know that like even in like where Kale LaVisca lives down in Minnesota, there's 150 courses in the surrounding city, right? So I know that, and like if you look at a map of Finland or Sweden, there's piles of courses. I know that Avery Jenkins has played way more courses, right? And that's fine. And I encourage somebody to go out there and break the record because, like I said, it wasn't truly about the destination, but the journey was absolutely incredible. So,
yeah, I mean, really, with anything challenging like that, setting out to do something that's incredibly challenging, but also that's going to give you a wealth of experience and memories and stuff in the process. I think that's beneficial for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
for sure. So I mean, I'm assuming he's one of your members, Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle Copeland. He's He's the biggest fan of our podcast.
So yeah, Kyle sent a couple of questions out there, and I think that maybe we could address a couple of those while we're talking about it. So he asked, after having played so many courses across the nation, is there a region that you feel like you could call your favorite? Now, this is gonna maybe sound like a little bit of butt kissing, but it's not. I've truly bragged because people ask me a similar question all the time. What's your favorite kind of place, or where's the favorite place that you're on your journey? And I always go back to the guys in Music City. So
suck it, Charlotte.
That's not just nationally though across the United States. That's like I said, that's globally out of the experiences that I've had playing in 7 different countries. You guys absolutely smashed it out of the park. And how you guys are doing things. Like there was stuff that I learned while on my journey while I was in Nashville about like running events or like even like courses. I'm trying to think what it was called now. Oak. I think it might be
Seven Oaks. Yeah.
7 Oaks. Is that the one where you have it's got like nuts to tell you which pin position it's in on the?
Several of our courses have that, but yeah, that is the case at 7 Oaks.
Yeah, and so that was the first time I'd experienced that on my journey, and so that was something that I appreciated, and just the welcomingness of your community. I mean, the disc golf community as a whole is very welcoming, but like I said, I think you guys just took it to that next step a little bit, and like I still got a bag tag from when I played the bag tag round with you guys. It stays on my bag with me, and Yeah, like you guys just took it to a whole nother level. Even like I left a disc on a course, and I think it was in
Triple
where was
Creek.
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I left the disc on a course, and somebody sent it back to me like no questions asked, and I'm like, you got to mail it to Canada, and I was like, man, it was incredible. It was awesome.
We got some good eggs around here. I'm glad that you enjoyed your time while you were in Nashville. That it's important to me that anybody that visits here, especially for disc golf, leaves with a good impression. Especially, we were honored to be a part of your attempt at that record, and
Yeah.
being one of those milestones was big for us too. So
Yeah, where did which was the course that we played our bag tag round on?
I believe that was at Seven Oaks. You came out for the Wednesday night tag round, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just there was a couple things that like really stood out to me, like because Kyle sent me another question, kind of the secondary question. They're like asking like what made it a little bit different, and the memorial that was set up there, that you guys have set up there,
For Freddie.
was yeah, that was pretty impressive. I haven't seen a memorial like that at any other course. And just like cultural things, right? Like guys giving a little pour out at the tee box and stuff, and I was just like, man, like you guys are doing the right things, but you're doing the right things culturally. You're doing the right things like socially to reach out to the community at large, not just the disc golf community. But you're doing things like the amount of stuff like the benches and the garbage cans at the courses, right? Like you guys truly genuinely care about the course being a place where it's environmental as well, and that it's healthy and that it's clean and that people have a positive experience. Um, and like the amount of volunteer work, just I know that I didn't get to necessarily witness it, but just when I get to walk the course and talk to you guys about that, the amount of volunteer hours you guys have put in is just like, yeah, you guys are doing the right stuff, and it was a really really awesome experience. I mean, I had good experiences in other places, but I said you guys just took it to that next level, and it was awesome.
Well, that
So
means a lot to to have you say that, dude. And those kind of things, the giving, giving of yourself, putting back into disc golf, that is
yeah,
something that we try to instill in the etiquette that we present to to other people that are playing disc golf, particularly beginners or people that have just picked up the sport. That's one of the big concerns that has been floating around in certain circles that I float in recently, is that by all accounts across the board during this pandemic and all the shelter in place and safer at home orders and stuff, there are tons and tons of people picking up disc golf. The parks are
yeah,
full of high school kids and families with handfuls of
yeah,
discs just going out there playing. And right now, because everything is shut down, there's nobody out there to lead by example and put the etiquette aspect of this game on display for those folks. And so we're going to have a little bit of catch up to play when we finally get back into it. And that's a daunting kind of a looming thing on the horizon, because it's hard enough to keep your trash cans empty most of the time or keep people using them. So
yeah. I know, like we have. It depends. Everything is regional, right? Like some cities work really well together with disc golf communities, and some struggle, and that kind of stuff. Like I know that we have a course here where I'm living now. Like I moved from Manitoba to Alberta, and there's a course here. It's a really well used public park. It's got just open green space. It's got a beach area. It's got walking paths and disc golf course. It's just a really high trafficked area, but there's no garbage cans set up. And as a result, garbage ends up all over the place. And part of it is the city's kind of saying, like, well, we need to have access for our workers to get the carts there and this, that, and the other and stuff. And it's like, okay, I get where you're coming from, but we can also clearly see that the park is going to be better if we have garbage cans. So can we like try to sort that remedy out? And I know there's people that are working on it. And like I said, so it all depends, but I think everybody has that, is trying to push that forward. To go back to what we were talking about at the beginning, like with the COVID stuff and how there's going to be changes. I think one of the changes that we're going to see is a larger participation in the sport. Um, like I can't. I've said the same thing. Like my buddies and I have just been talking, and like we try to carry discs with us every round that we go to give discs out to new people that we meet. And I'm starting to run out of discs to give out to people, because it's like I have seen so many people on the course just going for a walk with their family and they got like one or two discs, and then they see us throw and they're like, wow, that's incredible. How do we do that? Where do you buy discs? And just lots and lots and lots of questions, or even just passersby. Like I played a casual round of yesterday, and just passersby being like, oh, that's what those baskets are for. I thought they were deer
Deer
feeders, right?
feeder, barbecue grills.
So, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of growth that happens because of this. And I'm really excited about that. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Malcolm Gladwell as an author. The Tipping Point.
Hmm.
So
I
he
haven't
talks
read it,
about,
but I know I am familiar. Yeah.
yeah, he talks about sort of that critical mass and how you need like 16% to sort of to gain that critical mass, and then you can start to get past that tipping point, right? And I think that that's what we do with the etiquette piece, is that if we can get that critical mass of people that are engaging it in a practical way, it kind of, that's where that cultural shift can have, right? Like putting up signs and getting upset and constantly ragging on people, pick your garbage up. We all know that's not the best way to do it. And this is, again, this is maybe me talking larger picture stuff, but culture is what we do, not what we say we do,
Yeah.
right? So it's what we actually do. And I think if we like, you guys are doing a great job with your culture, and if you, I think maybe where you guys have had the success. So this is maybe going to answer one of the Kyle's questions as well, is where you guys have success, and partly why you guys have had success is that you've intentionally built into your culture, right? And so a lot of times culture exists. Well, everywhere you go, culture exists. There is some form of culture that exists, but how that culture continues to progress forward and get shaped can be just left up to random chance and people coming in and out of the community or whatever happening. Or you can choose to intentionally say, we are going to control our culture and steer our culture in a certain direction. And I really think that you guys have done that, and it shows, because you can see that it permeates through. It wasn't just you as the leader that was positive, had a made my time in Nashville good. It was everybody that I interacted with that had that same sort of positivity and energy and excitement and like ownership over what was happening. And that's a cultural thing, and I know that you spent time doing that intentionally, and I think that that's a large part of why you guys are being able to sort of row the boat in the same direction and have the success you've had. So
Absolutely true. I mean, and this is just human nature. I think if you don't lead by example and give ownership, or a sense of ownership or a stake in what you're doing, what you're building, if you don't do those things, I mean, people by nature, we if there's somebody else leading the way, we'll follow them. I mean,
yeah,
it's like if there's somebody else that looks like they've got their stuff together and we don't, I mean, we'll go that way. But if you can, it's like, feed a man or teach a man to fish kind of thing.
yeah,
It's like, if, like you said, if it's instilled and implemented in the culture from the ground up, it becomes a thing that it belongs to all of us.
yeah,
And it matters to all of us, and we all invest in
yeah,
it, and
yeah,
that makes it more rewarding, I think, for anybody that's participating, and it's more rewarding to be a part of it if you can look at how awesome what you have is and know that you played a part in making it that way.
totally,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, totally.
So fill me in real quick, because I know we talked about this some on the last time you were on the show. You broke your attempt down into several micro tours, and you kind of, I mean, you ventured around in your local regional area, but you went to Europe, at least once, if not more than once. You came down into the
A couple times,
States
yeah.
a few times.
Yeah.
So where did this thing take you? Give us the highlights of all the different
So,
places you got to see doing this.
yeah, so obviously I played around in my local area. Played all my local courses in Manitoba, and then there's a lot of courses just south of the border. So where I was Winnipeg, Manitoba. It's not far from the U.S. border, the North Dakota border. So we would drive down, and then we play in several tournaments in and around that Fargo, Grand Forks kind of area in North Dakota. And so then we sort of started spreading out. Sort of, I'd play the main courses in Grand Forks and Fargo area, and start making that web a little bigger. Made it down to South Dakota as well. And then same thing, like we were in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and Yankton as well, and playing in and sort of spreading out that web down there a little bit, playing courses in around that area. And then it was, like I said, my sister lives just south of Atlanta, and so it's like, well, okay, let's make a road trip down to Atlanta. So I played, left Winnipeg, played in a tournament in North Dakota, and then just kind of kept hitting courses as we headed south. Uh, I stopped off in Indianapolis and visited with a friend that I used to spend a fair bit of time with when we were both living here in Alberta, and I spent a couple of days with him and his family, and then just carried on down and stopped in um, just outside of Nashville, Gallatin. I have a friend that lives there. We actually went to school together when we were living in England. Um, and yeah, so spent a couple of days with him, got connected with you guys, carried on further south down to, like I said, Atlanta, played several. Oh man, that adventure down by Atlanta was bananas. It was so hot when I was there. It was so ridiculously hot. I was playing 6 rounds a day and going through 6 t-shirts a day
Yeah.
because I'd play around and I'd be wringing sweat out of it, put on a clean shirt, and then go drive to the next course and play another round. And it was bananas. I couldn't, like, I was going through so much water, and like every day I'm going back to my sister's house and doing loads of laundry because I went through so many shirts. Um, yeah, and then coming back through, came and I was able to stop in Emporia, Kansas. It was the Junior World Championships at the time, so I got to see those kids. Man, I tell you,
Bonkers.
unbelievable, unbelievable. So I got to meet several of the guys from the DD team. So I got to meet Rob, Emac. I got to take a tour of the DD factory, meet some of the staff there. I got to meet the disc golf guy, Terry. So that was really good. But like being at Emporia at the main course there and watching the kids throw the island hole
Mm-hmm.
and parking it, and you're like, what? This is crazy. These and like some of them, I'm trying to remember what the young guy's name was that won. He plays ambidextrous, and I was like,
Arlinghouse. Was it
yeah,
Zach Arlinghouse? Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, dude, this is crazy. And I mean, I'm all for it. Like I played a lot of soccer growing up, and I played like collegiate, university level soccer, and obviously being ambidextrous with your feet is very important in the sport at a higher level. And I think again, that's something that I think we're going to see coming up in the sport. In the next generation of kids is being able to play ambidextrous because it just opens the doors for so many options for you, right? You're
Yeah.
not stuck behind a tree or a rock or having to do a straddle in a direction you don't like. You can be like, well, I'll just forehand this with my left hand instead of trying to go with a crazy Anheuser that I don't feel comfortable with. I'll just throw a forehand, right? So I think that that's going to be part of what comes through in the next generation of players is that ambidextrous play. But that was really cool. Stopping in Kansas there, playing some courses in the rural areas, driving through St. Louis, and then into Omaha, Nebraska, and then making my way back sort of north, and that's where I met up and played. I'm trying to remember the name of the tournament that I played in. Two famous explorers, Lewis and Clark.
Lewis and Clark. Yep.
So I played in the Lewis and Clark Open in Yankton, South Dakota, I believe it was, and then drove back up north. I was home for, I think I was home for 6 days, and then my wife and by the way, so people are gonna be like, how are you affording to do this? What do you like? Are you a single guy? Don't have a job? Like, what's going on? My wife actually came with me for most of the journey. So when I did the weekend tournaments, I had a buddy from Winnipeg come with me for the longer trips and my trips to Europe. My wife came with me for those trips, so she's with me on them. But yeah, so then we were home for about 6 days, and then we flew over to Europe. Both of our families are originally from Europe. Both my parents and her parents are from there, so her parents still live over there. And so yeah, we flew there. and then we traveled and we played courses in Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, Germany, while we were there, and kind of did a loop around those. If you're familiar with the European geography, that kind of makes a little loop
Yeah.
come through. Um, the I played in a tournament in the Netherlands. It was they called it a marathon tournament. We did 4 rounds in one day, and that was a pretty interesting experience. So during we played 2 rounds, and we kind of had a little bit of a lunch break. Just kind of went, had sandwiches and drinks, whatever kind of people had in their backpacks with them. And then we played the third round, and after the third round, because there was only about, I think there was only about 15 of us playing in the marathon event. Said, okay, we're gonna go for pizza. And so everybody just piled into a couple different cars. We drove to a local shop, sat around, had pizza for an hour, drove back to the course and played the last round, and didn't finish. The last 2 holes, torrential rain came down.
Oh
So we
no.
missed the last 2 holes, but nobody cared. We were soaked to the bone. And I have a group picture, and everybody is just absolutely smiles because it was just an incredible day. Um, and so then we traveled, like I said, traveled to Belgium, which is just a little to the west, sort of southwestish or of the Netherlands there. Played a couple of courses, and then down into France. And people always ask me, "What's your favorite all-time course that you played?" And it was this nowhere course in France. It's not. I put it on UDisc because it wasn't even on there. I was
It's
just
rare to
googling
find that these days.
so I just was. We were in France, and I was looking at courses that I went to nearby to play, and I came across this course. It was a pay-to-play course on the website, and so I was like, "Well, let's drive down there and check it out." They had a putting green, they had a driving range, they had like rental discs at the office. You could buy discs at the office. They had scorecards, and then you get out onto the course, and you've got like hills and valleys and like tree shot. It had a little bit of everything. It had a wooded course part. The kind of the back nine was kind of wooded. Had some open shots, some shots throwing off of like hills down into the valley and then back up. Um,
The
every
fun
hole had,
stuff.
yeah, every hole had 2 tee pads, the shorts and the long tee pads, with like the turf covering and stuff. It was really well done. Came across a basket setup I've never seen before. You're standing on the tee pad and you're looking at the sign, and the sign says that it's only about 140 feet to the basket. And I'm looking and I'm like, I should be able to see 140 feet, and there should be a basket there. And I'm looking at this map and I'm like, something is not right. So I walk the fairway, and this was a wooded hole. So I walk the fairway, and I'm like, this is where it should be. And I take a couple more steps into the giant pit, like a monstrous pit, and the basket is sitting at the bottom of the pit. And I was like, this is awesome. I've never had to throw a hole like this before. So that I don't know if it was just that day. My wife and I had a really good round with a couple people and beautiful weather. But for whatever reason, it's not the most difficult course I played in my life. But for whatever reason, it just sits with me as probably the most enjoyable. Then we
That's
drove
it's those
to
courses that have that weird uniqueness to it. It's like it's not
yeah,
necessarily like we have a private course called Ogwood that's like that. It's like none of the holes are crazy challenging, but a lot of courses you stand on any given hole and you can be like, well, this reminds me of this hole at this course.
yeah,
And so when you find one where there's not a lot of that going on, that
yeah.
sticks with you.
Yeah, and that's what this whole course, every hole is a kind of a little bit like, this is different. I haven't seen something like this before. And none of them were super challenging. They were just a little bit different. And so I really appreciated it. Then we drove to Switzerland. That was really cool. We were driving to Switzerland, and I texted a buddy that I used to go to school with, and I said, "Man, like, I know you're in Switzerland. Is there any chance we could meet up?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can come stay at my house. It's gonna be awesome." So he's like, "But you got to pick me up from the train station, and then we'll go to my house after that." So okay. So we drive into the heart of Bern, uh, and we're following this map, the navigation to the train station. And we get there, and we go to the underground parking, and we walk out, and it's absolute mayhem. And it's their annual city party, so the outdoor street festival. So it's just absolute bonkers. Swiss people going crazy, music, songs, dancing, outdoor vendors, everything. I was like, this is awesome. This is so good. So we spent the night there, just enjoying some of the local culture, and then went back to my buddy's place. Met up with one of the local guys who runs the Swiss sort of disc golf, and I just contacted him on social media and asked if there was an opportunity to connect and if maybe he had some discs to sell as a memory of being in Switzerland together. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, come on over to my house. So dive over to his place, and he's like, shows me, he's got a sort of like a container space, and he opens up and he's just got shelves and shelves and shelves of discs, and he's like, I picked out 10 discs that I think you might like. And so he lets me look through them, and one of the discs was from the course that I played the day previous in Switzerland. And he's like, oh, that's where our national tournament was, and that's the stamp of that course. And I was like, oh, I'd love to grab this one. He's like, yeah, that's totally yours. And he's like, why don't you come upstairs for a while? So went up to his house and just chatted. My wife and I just chatted with him for about an hour about just life and what's going on. And I mean, that's what I'm talking about, the community, right? Like, just the fact that, like, I come into town, don't know anybody at all, send a couple messages on social media, and I'm in a guy's house for an hour having coffee with him in Switzerland, right? And so, yeah, and it was just same thing. Drove to Germany, connected with actually a student athlete that I used to coach. I was a strength conditioning coach while he was playing collegiate basketball, and he took us for a tour of one of the local castles, and it was absolutely amazing. And just to reconnect and then drive back home. And yeah, so I mean, I've gone back a couple times and played since. I played in a Dutch national tour event over the New Year's as well. And yeah, it's just like I said, it's been an incredible journey. Like I said, I know people can play more courses, and I would totally encourage somebody to do that if they just want to go out there and absolutely mash the record. Somebody could put up 400 courses in a year. Go for it. I totally encourage people to do that. But even just to get out and explore more, right? Like, just get out and play different courses, different cultures, different people. It was awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean,
So
especially like in a totally different part of the world, language, cultural barriers, all that stuff, and it doesn't even matter. If you could be somewhere you've never been, never thought you ever would be, go onto a disc golf course and you're among friends.
amen.
It's a
Yeah,
special thing.
totally. Totally. Yeah.
Well, the Guinness record, I mean, obviously you're kind of remaining in a holding pattern for the
Yeah.
moment until we kind of figure out what's going to happen to life and the world.
Yeah.
But the previous record clearly was manageable, so I feel
Yeah.
confident that you'll get in there at least for a minute. I mean, somebody would have had to have
Yeah.
started right around the same time as you and lived somewhere like Michigan with 200 courses within an hour's drive or something to
Yeah.
be kind of on your level right now.
Yeah.
Something we briefly touched on and that I find very interesting is that you have played competitively at tabletop games at
Yeah.
various levels, and you recently just released a Settlers of Catan strategy guide that
Yeah.
is available in audio form and text form.
Yep.
And that was something that when I saw it on your Facebook page, that totally hit me out of left field. I had no idea that you even rolled like that. And we've got some of the folks in our disc golf community here. Shout out to Mike McDaniel and Danielle Dobbs and many others that are Catan aficionados. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, he took it there. So tell us a little bit about your background with gaming.
Yeah. So, I mean, I talked to my university students about this. I teach at university, and I like to ask questions about, like, how did you get to sit in my classroom here today, and how much of that was planned versus random sort of events that maybe happen in your life. And I've played a lot of board games in my life. I used to play a lot of Risk and Scrabble were games that my buddies and I used to play. And in 2000, I think it was around 2004. No, let me back this up again. Yeah, around 2004, a friend introduced us to Settlers of Catan. And it was good because we were looking for a new game. we were getting kind of sick of playing Risk, and we were trying to expand out into different games. And he introduced us to Settlers Catan. Played it, and it was fun. Enjoyed it. Played it a few more times, and in 2005, Winnipeg was one of the host cities for the national championship for Catan, and so we all got together and said, "Well, let's enter this tournament and see what happens." And myself and one of my closest friends are at the final table together, and I managed to best him on that day, and get a trip to Germany to play in the World Championships. I was the lone Canadian at the World Championships that year. I think it's the only year that Canada had one representative at the World Championships was that year in 2005. I did okay. I finished middle of the pack in the World Championships. If I was to go back now, I think the result would be different. But I do take the feather in my cap that I beat the multi-time German national champion, who was very, very good player, and I bested him in my very first game at the tournament. And so I was pretty excited about that. He was a little choked, but that's definitely one of the feathers in my cap from that event. And then it just kind of kept going from there, playing in various local tournaments, playing in some other regional events, and then it expanding out into invitational events. So they have what's called a Masters Championship, where they invite previous tournament champions, usually from sort of national level competitors. They invite several of them together. So there's several competitors from across Canada and the United States who have won over the years, and they bring them together to sort of have a Masters Championship. I won that event in 2011, I believe it was. I won that event. And so, yeah, just like I said, I've played in a lot of tournaments over the years for Catan, and I had an idea to write a book, and the story is write what you know. That's the adage, right? Mm-hmm. Write what you know. So I feel like I know the game pretty well, and decided to put the book together for it. And yeah, that's where it sort of birthed out of. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at it or not. I should probably send you a copy of it to you, but there's a lot of storytelling. I tell a lot of stories about tournaments and events and stuff that I played in, and how I utilize various different strategies in those events. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's served me well for the most part. I've got to travel playing tournaments in different parts of Canada and the United States. Got to play in some really big events. If there's gamers out there, they'll know what things like Gen Con is. Mm-hmm. Having an all expenses paid trip to play in Germany and Essen, which is like the mecca of board gaming at Eschenspiel in Germany. And so getting to do that let me think about this now. 2012, I think it might have been. I played in the Monopoly National Championships as well.
I was about to ask you, because I know that you had mentioned before that you've played Monopoly, and competitively, what is that? Just like whoever makes it the longest without flipping the board over?
So in tournament play, this always surprises people. In the tournament, so we did there was 4 round robin games, a semifinal and a final. And the longest game that I participated in, I think, was about 47 minutes in the tournament.
Wow.
And so people are like, how does that even happen? In tournament play, there's a third dice that's used to help accelerate the game. It's a speed dice that adds numbers. So it has 3 sort of functions. It can add numbers. It can force you to choose numbers, so you can actually choose what numbers you want to get. Or it can force kind of somebody onto somebody else's property. So the properties gets bought really quickly. And then because of one of the features of the dice, there's a strategy where you actually intentionally mortgage everything that you have except for one section of property. And then because of the way the speed dice works, you actually skip over all the mortgage property, because the way it words, the rule is worded is if you roll this particular option on the third dice, you have to move to your opponent's next unmortgaged property. So everybody just mortgages everything, and then just stacks hotels on the one piece property that they do have, and the game people get bankrupt super fast. So Yeah, you have to play it. It makes sense when you play it, but there's some different strategy involved. But I think I finished either first or second in acquired assets during round robin play. Like during one of my rounds, I think I was close to $12,000 in assets that I'd acquired for one of my wins. Um, but as with any game, there's obviously strategy in it. But with Monopoly, the biggest piece of strategy is it's approximately $450 to bankrupt somebody is sort of that magic number. A lot of people think that you need the big properties. You don't. You can actually win the game with the light blues uh, on the first stretch there because they have enough of an equity that you can bankrupt people if you know how to utilize them correctly. So just strategy. But I mean, it's with other games too. Like I've played in the Ticket to Ride. That's a train game. I played in Ticket to Ride national championships. I've won local tournaments for Ticket to Ride and stuff as well. I enjoy strategy gaming. And I think that's partly why when at the beginning of the podcast I mentioned I like the game within the game when you can see the leaderboard
Yeah.
because my brain just sort of functions in that strategy competitive sort of mode and I really appreciate it. So
Yeah, you definitely seem like a calculated and meticulously minded kind of guy. Like there's an overarching strategy to most of the moves you make, I think. I mean,
try to be anyways. Or at
well,
least I tell a good story to make people believe
well,
that.
I've got to be honest, man. The level of like administrative stuff on the side that you had to do for the Guinness attempt. I mean, when you were describing it to me when we met last year, that is just like crazy. Like, how many hours a day would you have to spend? Like, for every day you got to play a new course, did you have to spend a day like sending forms to Guinness?
Well, so the way it works is that they want everything sent in one big block. So I have to submit it all at the end. I can't submit it in chunks.
Gotcha. But you had to work on it
So
every. You didn't,
yeah,
yeah.
so I would go home at night and make sure that the forms are filled out correctly. And I mean, you have to do some of it while you're at the course. Like when I was together with you guys, I had to get the scorecards signed by the people. So I have to get that done right at the course. I have to get the witness documents signed generally at the course. Um, you were at the course, so I could get like the sort of the local authority to sign off. Sometimes I have to get that externally, like I have to contact them or find other ways to get in touch with them so that that can be verified through the main person. But yeah, I've got a stack of documents like
Yeah. Well, so we've covered your Guinness attempt, we've covered Catan. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about, and this is actually pretty cool news for the podcast, we might have just brought in our first sponsor for the show. So we're going to talk a little bit. One of the other, I guess, ventures, endeavors that you've got under your hat is the Creative Coaching Academy.
Yep.
And that is something that you've done primarily soccer and other sort of well, mainly soccer, but other sports. And you're
Yep.
developing a disc golf course on preparing your mind for disc golf. And
Yep.
tell us a little bit, because this is with your business partner, your friend that you mentioned previously in the
Yep.
show. Here we
Yep.
go. I've got a picture of little screenshot I'll put up here of that video you sent me, the soccer video.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
this is with your business partner that lives in Gallatin. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about how this plan all came together.
Yeah. So Darren's my business partner. Darren has his master's degree in sports psychology. He played professional soccer himself, and then had some injuries, as seems to be the case with a lot of people who sort of want to maintain within sport, but have incurred an injury, but want to find a way and an outlet to continue on in the sport. So he incurred an injury, and then wanted to find another way to continue on with the sport, and he went down the route of street soccer. And so he began, instead of playing traditional sort of 11v11 soccer or continue on playing 11v11 soccer, he ventured down the road of street soccer, which is a lot of like and one basketball, if you want to think about it from that perspective. A lot of flair, a lot of see if you can put the ball through somebody's legs and like embarrass them. And it's very exciting and fun to watch. There's countries in the world like in Belgium and in the Netherlands, they actually have cages where they put two people in so they can do this. It's called a pana cage, where you're trying to put the ball through somebody's leg and embarrass them as much as you possibly can. And it's so he got really good at it and became one of the best players in the world. So much so that he was actually an unlockable character in the FIFA Street video game.
Wow.
He's yeah, so you can unlock Flav is his name. He's an unlockable character in the FIFA Street video game. And so he actually traveled. He did a lot of traveling around, showcasing those sort of skills. But more so than showcasing them, he's a very intelligent individual and wanted to share with other people the benefits of this. And so that it's not just a circus trick, right? Like it's really cool when you can watch somebody do some stuff, but then you go, yeah, but how does that translate into a real game, right? And so he wanted to take what he knew how to do with his feet and then be able to teach it to others to be able to implement it into the game. And so it's led him to a journey of creating the International Street Soccer Association. Business was, like, I believe, the first business that he had, teaching a lot of youth, primarily the sport of street soccer, but not just how to do it, but the why to do it, and that there's a lot of problem solving that goes on to it, right? And so asking the question, providing, so the mantra kind of behind it is, we want to try to provide you with tools, and then we're going to provide you with problems, and then we want to see the solutions that you come up with using the tools that we've given you. And we don't necessarily want to see you give us the answer that you think we want to hear. We want to have you come up with an answer that still solves the problem. It might look totally different than something we came up with, but if it solves the problem, it's still a right answer. And so this is especially successful with youth because their brains are still open to creativity and sort of trying things and failing at things and not being as worried about the consequences or what other people might think about them. And it's been really positive. So Darren and I met actually when we were both working on a master's degree in England. We spent some time together, did a lot of soccer stuff together, parted ways when I moved back to Canada, but we kept in touch. And just over the years, we've kept in touch and asked a lot of questions back and forth to each other. I'm sure we could probably package our emails and just sell them. There's some really crazy conversations that we've had back and forth and just even our emails. And it's led us to recently just saying, you know what, like, let's formally put this together in the form of the Creative Coaching Academy and connect what's going on. And so Darren has been doing it for a while. The Creative Coaching Academy, Darren has been doing some stuff primarily in the soccer world for a while. A lot of it in the United States, in the Tennessee area. And we just we saw an opportunity, not just because of COVID, but just bigger picture. Like I said, Darren and I have spent, like, my background, I'm coming from being a collegiate sport coach for several years. I've been a collegiate sport coach for about 15 years now. Had the opportunity to coach with Team Canada and in a variety of different levels. So I have a high level of coaching experience in addition to my athletic experience, as does Darren. And we just said, you know what, there's gaps in coach education that we can help fill, and let's make an opportunity at this as a business. And so we actually just viewed to work together with a video this morning with somebody who used to be in charge of Manchester United, right? Oh, wow. And so we put together a constraints-led learning video about how in 2003, the gentleman that was working with the youth players at Manchester United used a 4v4 system to develop some of the best players in the world using constraints-led learning, and how we can now present that to coaches so that they can best utilize that, but not just telling them what to do. We'd explain them sort of the how, and then maybe give them some feeder pieces so they can start, again, take the tools, create problems, and then try to use those tools to solve the problems. If it doesn't work, let's see if we can figure out another tool, right? Mm-hmm. And then applying it to the youth. And so that was, like I said, one of the pieces that we've done. The one that I sent you the other day for soccer was, it was a parents program that we would look at putting it together, a parents program video. So just understanding the role of the parent within the sort of the coach athlete structure, and how the parent can best facilitate kids being successful within their sport and how the parents can have an influence in that. But then looking at sports like disc golf, right? And saying like, as of now, there's no formal sort of coach education that's happening within the sport, but there's a lot of people who are putting out videos on how to throw farther, or how to do an X step, or how to do this, or how to do that. And there's a lot of great content in those videos. There is truly a lot of great content in those videos. And so we're not going to step on anybody's toes. Like, I'm an 870 rated. I'm going to bring that up to 900 this year, though. Golfer. And so my ability to maybe throw a disc isn't as amazing as a lot of other people around. But where I think I can be helpful is, like you said, from some of that psychological stuff, right? Understanding the game within the game, like getting into your own mind, right? And how to win that game, right? How to deal with things, like how do we address things from a golf perspective or disc golf perspective relative to other sports, right? So for example, we're putting together a video series called Managing Match Day for soccer coaches, in understanding, what do you do the week before a game? What do you do 3 days before a game? What do you do the day before a game? What do you do 6 hours before a game, 3 hours, 90 minutes, right? And sort of breaking it down into those chunks of like, how are you managing yourself? How are you managing your team? Like, what sort of administration thing needs to go on? And when you take coaching courses, a lot of those things aren't addressed. There's a lot of things like, this is the formation, this is how to do this or that. But those sort of the gaps within that are important aren't necessarily addressed. And so we're looking at that and going, okay, well, within the sport of disc golf, for an example, how do you manage your match day in a disc golf tournament, right? Like, what are you doing the night before, right? What are you doing the morning of? Like, are you getting to the course earlier, or even the day before? Are you getting to the course early? I always try to get to the course a day or two early and play 2-3 rounds if I can on the course, right? What are you doing the morning of? Are you getting up, practicing like some putts? Are you stretching? What's your nutrition been like the night before? What's going to be your nutrition on the course? What do you have in your backpack? Like, what's the weather like? Do you have the right footwear? Do you have the right towels? Do you have the right stuff in your bag? Like, just making sure that all those things are prepped, and that all understanding that all that stuff done intentionally might seem like it's taking up mental space, but if you take up that mental space prior to the event, it frees your mind to allow you to engage and not have to take up the mental space during the event, right? And so, yeah, so we're looking at putting together some resources for disc golf in encouraging ambidextrous play, right? In how to sort of manage your mind. And so we've got a variety. Darren and I we had a call actually and some texting back and forth today about some of the different modules that we're looking at putting together for how we can sort of help move forward some best practices maybe, and ultimately, like what you said, well, we really truly want to serve the community and just help people enjoy the game more and be better at what they want to be better at, right? So
yeah, and the mental side of things, I think, is something that everybody struggles with, at least to some extent. I mean, that's the part that is the biggest wrestling match of it all. I mean, you can condition your body to perform a wide range of extreme movements. You can even do that with so much repetition that it becomes second nature, and you develop muscle memory, and that's applied to those extreme movements. But you can, I mean, it's one thing to know how to put a putter in a basket, and it's a much different thing to stare that basket down in a tournament and actually do it. And that all boils down to what's going on in between your ears. So I think that something that can help you gain mastery over the mental aspect of playing disc golf, I think that's something that anybody could find value in. And we're talking about right now making some sort of an arrangement where we have a code that people can use, enter MCDG, and be able to get access to these courses, and also send a couple of bucks to help support the show.
Yeah, sure.
Something that we've not talked about a whole lot is that, obviously we use this podcast to promote everything we've got going on with the club, Music City Disc Golf, and our tournaments and stuff like that. But being that the club is a 501c3 nonprofit, we don't use any of the club funds to make upgrades or anything like that to the show. That's all been self-funded by me, Jay,
Yep.
Marcus, Dr. Hoy. So this would be beneficial for us going forward, being able to continue to make upgrades and buy new software and stuff like that. So, and
Yeah.
that's part of giving people a sense of ownership and stuff, like you said, is, they can get something that will improve their game, and also at the same time have that beneficial sense of knowing that they supported something that they find value in. So,
Yeah, and like I said, it's honestly, and I think we said this in the text when we were going back and forth. It's truly about creating as many wins as possible, right?
mm-hmm.
So if I wake up and I've got millions of dollars, but there's people around me that are struggling to eat, well, maybe I've won, but at what cost? And I'm not okay with that, right? And so what I shared with you is that we could do a revenue share essentially, right? So, we're going to post these courses up for use and the opportunity to do a revenue share together with you, right? So, looking at if somebody from your club purchases a course, well, let's give some of that money back to the club, right? So that you guys can do more with it and continue to do the awesome stuff that you guys are doing there, right? Like, so we've created a win in that we've got a little bit of success in our business. We've created a win for somebody who's taken the course and hopefully got a little bit more education and feels better about themselves as a person, but also as an athlete. And then we've created a win for you guys, and that you can do something with those funds to improve the sport, which is ultimately going to hopefully create another win down the road. And it just like, and that's what it's about, man. Like I said, if I woke up and I was super wealthy, but there's people around me that were struggling, and I just wanted to keep all the money for myself, I'm not okay with that, right? So our goal is to truly create as many wins in that chain as we possibly can, and just keep them going, right? Like, and feed off of them, right? So I just finished a leadership and management course, and one of the things the professor was talking to me was, create small victories, because it helps keep that hunger alive for the next one, right? So allow somebody to have that victory, create that win with them, and then it keeps the hunger going for them to get the next win, and then allow them to have another little win and create that. And so we just want to keep creating wins along the way, right? So, yeah.
Man, people like you are incredibly inspirational, just because, for one, it's an incredible undertaking to try and get into business for yourself by any stretch of the imagination in any capacity. But to do it in a way where the I guess the currency of your business and your endeavor is actually creating a product or a service that improves somebody's life, or somebody's or the way somebody enjoys a big part of their life.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's got to, I can see how charged up you get about it and how excited you are about it. And that's the kind of thing that I've always, found exciting about working in disc golf too, is just, the ability
Yeah.
to pour your heart and soul into something, and then be able to watch the people that you made it for actually enjoy it and get something out of
Yeah.
it. That's a very unique, rewarding sense of feeling. Like,
Well, I think if we look at the sport, so many of us came to the sport from, I mean, not everybody, and I think the demographic might change a little bit, but there's a lot of people who I met along my journey who have come to the sport because of injury, maybe because of mental struggles, or they've having various different issues. Like, I met guys who I got to play around with guys who just said, you know what, I was in prison, and because I'd made some really dumb decisions, I got out, and I needed to make a different decision for my life. I needed to fill my time with something more constructive than what I was doing, because what I was doing landed me in jail. And I turned to disc golf, and it turned my life around, right? Like, I've got friends now. I've got something to do with my life that I feel excited about. And it changed it changed lives in a positive way, right? Like, I turned to the sport because it was an opportunity for me to be competitive in a sport, despite the knee trauma that I'd incurred, right? A friend, the guy that I play with a lot of my rounds with, turned to the sport because there was some stuff that he was going through personally, and it was just an escape for him to be like, while I'm on the course with you, I get to be with my buddy, and I get to enjoy something and be away from all of the mess that's kind of going on. and it allows me to recharge so I can go back and deal with the mess, right? And for me to be able to have the opportunity, and I truly view it as a privilege, to be able to contribute to somebody having a better experience on the disc golf course so they can go back into their life, be a better husband, better father, better daughter, better wife, better son, better whatever. There's no amount of money that pays for that win. And
Hmm.
I'm getting a little teary because of
Yeah,
it.
man, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
That
So,
that's I mean, in the same way, and I'm about to do the Southern thing and throw down a whole bunch of euphemisms and colloquialisms, but in the same way that they say hurt people, helping
yeah.
people helps people
Amen.
in a really big way. And some of your experiences are things that I've gone through. I've had a really wild up and down ride with my life. I went from, really, really meager means in my formative years, being in a really poor town in New Mexico that had a lot of gang activity and getting into a whole bunch of trouble, and then also, getting involved in church and all this other stuff, and then going back the other direction again and moving around the country and all of that stuff. And disc golf, it always has felt like it gave me a home
Yeah.
and a family
Yeah.
and somewhere to belong, something to apply myself to. And me saying stuff like that, you saying you relating some of the stuff from your background, I think honestly, man, that's everybody's story that plays disc golf.
Yeah.
I've seen this sport fix some broken people,
Yeah.
and to be able to share that and make people's experience with that better, that's huge. And I mean, that's something that you can carry forward with you your whole life and be proud of. So I'm excited to work with you on that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do so. So thank you for,
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. Really excited about it. I think we're
yeah.
gonna do some good stuff.
All right, and now the big reveal, the big news that we've been talking about. You've got a
That
big
you've been
announcement
wanting
to
to talk
make, and I'm just going to
about.
let you go ahead and make it.
Yeah, so obviously PDGA elections are coming up, and looking at putting my name forward and running for one of the board positions for the PDGA coming up.
That's very cool.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
No, man. Yeah, I'm very excited to hear that you're going to throw your hat in the ring because, I mean, what you're doing will inspire people. And when you inspire people, you get more people doing awesome stuff because people see and it's not anymore. It's not just like an idea, like a cool idea, or it would be awesome if it's like you see somebody actually just taking off and doing it, and you realize that
Yeah,
it's possible. So that
yeah,
you end up with a wake of a whole bunch of awesome people doing awesome stuff behind you, and when we talk about leading by example and instilling stuff in a cultural way, that's how you do it. You take the ideas and that methodology and you put it into action in a position of leadership. So
yeah.
I'm honestly, I'm still about 99% that I'm gonna put my name in there too. I've got my
Awesome,
application filled out. I'm finishing working on my video, but I should have it all in before the end of the month. So
awesome.
yeah, and man, we talked about this
Yeah,
off the air, but and this is how I feel about it. The whole thing is, if you're passionate about disc golf, you've got some experience, some knowledge, some skills. You apply yourself. If you know what I mean. I think a lot of people refrain from throwing themselves into something like this for just different kinds of because of misconceptions they have or just ideas they have about the way it works or what it means. But you know, the more people that we have engaging in these conversations, the better that the solutions will be.
yeah,
And that's why you have the board of directors set up like it is, or with any board of directors, where people can be elected into positions, and that fluctuates and changes over time. New ideas come to the table, and it remains fluid and evolving. And
Yep.
I think that's vital to the process when everything is changing as quickly as it is. And we're seeing
Yep.
so much craziness like COVID-19 and so many other things that are throwing roadblocks in front of what we're doing. So,
Yeah, and I think from both of us, it's not coming from a perspective of like I see the PDGA doing something wrong and I want to get in there and make changes. It's not coming from that place at all. My heart is not in that place. I just saw the opportunity and I took time after seeing the opportunity to talk to some friends and some family. And I just said, do you think that this is an opportunity that would be valuable for me to apply for? It doesn't mean that I'm going to get the position by any means. I understand that there's lots of people out there who would be interested in that position um, and probably can get the votes. I mean, living we don't have a lot of disc golfers in Canada, so I'd
well,
be
you've kind
hoping
of
that I can.
transcended that demographic, though. I mean,
I hope
I
so.
think your Guinness World attempt for sure definitely kind of instilled you in the minds of a lot of different disc golf communities. All the places
Yeah.
that you got to visit, I'm sure
Yeah.
were just as excited to see you coming as we were.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just the it's just an opportunity, and it's I see it as another opportunity to serve the community who I feel like has served me, the sport that has given me sort of life back when I was at maybe not the best time in my life where I've been at, and it gave me life, gave me opportunity, it gave me a memory that I have that I can take with me for the rest of my life of traveling around the world. But it gave me memories, smaller, maybe not as big picture, but like friendships. Like you and I have connected and talked several times since I came through, and the friendships that have been made. And so I see it as an opportunity to give back to the sport, and that's just what I'm excited about. If I don't get elected, I want to know that I also put my best foot forward. I did everything I could to give myself a realistic chance at the position, and I would love to have the opportunity to serve alongside you in that type of position. I truly think that that would be something that you and I would work really well together in, and um, it's I think that it speaks both to both of our personalities and to who we are as people and as sport administrators as well, that we can move forward knowing that the other person is also applying for that same position. Like yes, there is two positions available, but I can wholeheartedly go forward knowing that I'm excited about the fact that you're also applying for the position, right? I'm not like, oh crap, Will's been around longer and knows so many more people, and oh, he's wearing dynamic discs, and he got all those people are going to back him. I'm like, no, man, Will's an awesome dude. He's done a lot for the sport, and if he gets into that position, I'm going to be super happy for him, right? And so I really appreciate the fact that that's the kind of position that we're in as well, and that we can both really excitedly encourage each other on this journey as well.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I'm excited anytime I see somebody that's willing and especially like if they're actually desiring to apply themselves in this kind of a way because by and large for a long time it was really hard to find tournament directors and people that were willing to step up and do the behind the table kind of work and the more people that are doing it, the more ideas you have, the more different kind of processes get introduced to this whole thing. And it's those personal touches and those little things that separate events and make events unique or make one legendary or one that remains smaller, but it's one that you always go to hit. You know, every event, every club, every region, everybody has like their own unique thing that they add to the whole
Yeah.
jambalaya. And
Yeah.
I feel exactly the same way you do, man. Like, what I would encourage everybody is, at the very least, because I think that there's probably some significant amount of people just disregarding this kind of process. I know when we have our club elections, we've had to get really creative in order to get people involved in the voting process and
Yeah.
actually get a reasonable number of our active members participating. And with the PDGA, I mean, you're talking about a far greater number of people, but I'm sure
Yeah.
that those issues are universal. And from what I've been told, it's been historically difficult to get people to actually vote.
Yeah.
And So I would definitely encourage everybody, at the very least, when the ballots come out this summer and you have the opportunity to participate in this process, do some research. If there's a candidate on the ballot that you're not familiar with, that you've never heard their name before, pay attention to the information that is provided about that person. Look them up on Facebook, Google them, whatever, and find out what they're about. Because every year, you know, there are always awesome candidates, and the board of directors that we have currently is awesome. I mean, you've got a lot of really knowledgeable and experienced people, and these are disc
Yeah,
golfers. I think people forget that this isn't
yeah,
Big Brother Patriot Act tyranny kind of administration. These are disc golfers that care enough to give freely of their time to try and make it better. And you've got people like Elaine King, who has been a fixture in the sport for years and years, and is a
yeah,
super positive influence on so many people. It's to be
yeah,
a part of a group like that, I think, is something to aspire to. And for me, it's kind of gotten to the point where the community that I'm elected to serve has grown by leaps and bounds and grown and grown, and now we're operating on a much bigger scale than we were when we first started out. And a lot of these conversations and decisions that happen within the PDGA are more and more affecting my constituents now. And so this is kind of really, I mean, I'm making my best attempt at doing the job that I was elected to do here in Nashville as effectively as possible. But I also feel that it applies, much further outward than just than Nashville. But this experience of being in administration with the Music City Disc Golf Club, it's allowed me to be in touch with players at the ground level and kind of remain intimately familiar with what's important to people and where their interests lie. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, so and this is cool. The cool thing about having a podcast is that you know, somebody that's not familiar with you yet now has had an opportunity to kind of hear where your heart is and
Yeah,
what's important to you and get to know you a little bit better. So,
yeah, for sure.
but this isn't your first venture into larger scale administration. You were part of the Canadian Disc Golf Association board of directors,
Yeah.
correct?
So right now, yeah. So there has been the organization has been formed, the Canadian Disc Golf Association. So looking at, we're trying to sort of, the people involved in that are trying to sort of unify disc golf across Canada. And I'm currently part of the educational committee, so it makes sense. I think understanding some of the stuff that I talked about with the Creative Coaching Academy, where my passion lies. So really trying to be involved with the educational side of that. And what that looks like is, to be a recognized national sporting organization in Canada, you have to develop a long-term athlete development model and have some coaching criteria to go alongside of it. And so that's sort of my piece, is to try to work on and that part of it. Uh, as far as being involved at a administrative level within the sport of disc golf, I was also the chair for the disc golf committee in Manitoba, and uh, it's tough because I want to. I
No,
earn
I get it,
volunteer.
man. Anytime I fill out one of these applications and they ask you to put in a bio,
Yeah,
I'm like, ooh boy, I get to talk about myself in the third person.
yeah. So, and I mean, yeah, I was excited. I unknowingly was awarded Volunteer of the Year from from the province of Manitoba, there within the disc sport organization, for what I'd done for helping the sport of disc golf within the province of Manitoba. And yeah, so I mean, I'm trying to do my best to be a positive influencer, whether I'm in Manitoba, Alberta, or whether if I can affect that globally through a position with the PDGA, that would be awesome. So yeah.
So what's next for Mark Oxer? Are you going to Disneyland? What do you? I mean,
Oh man. So it's funny because I actually just posed that question to a friend of mine the other day. He was the president for the collegiate sports for the entire province of Alberta. He was the president for the league, and he just hosted his last sort of meeting. The season wrapped up, and the student athletes and everything done, and they're now looking at over the summer transitioning into what the next season will be like for athletics. And so he hosted his last meeting, and I texted him. I said, "What's next?" Um, and that's a really good question. I don't have necessarily something on my mind yet. The thing that's in front of me right now is, like I said, the PDGA board position is something that I want to really truly put some time into creating some information about who I am, and just being able to try to get my name out there a little bit so people at least know who I am and then my name comes across their ballot, is something that's probably going to be working on. But then just contributing locally. I'd really like to see what I could do locally. I mean, I have been asked to help with some course design projects, not from the perspective of the fact that I'm the best course designer per se.
We've
As
seen a
far
lot
as
of them.
I have seen a lot of courses, yeah, I have seen a lot of courses, and I have seen some really cool stuff. And my wife and I are currently renting a house, but looking to buy property, and I keep looking for acreages so I can build my own course. um, but from the course design perspective, um, partnering together with a few people to build and design some courses. And where my strength comes in is my experience working with the municipalities, so I can talk to the government agencies in ways that government agencies appreciate or understand being talked to. But then I can also talk to the concrete guys in the way that they need to be talked to, or the landscape guys in the way that they need to be talked to, the retailers or the manufacturers for the baskets, or and so more sort of being the facilitator and working alongside the various different parties to keep everybody rowing in the same direction and getting stuff done, is what I kind of am excited about. Like I've had a conversation going with my hometown, just outside of Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I'm just those processes take a while. I know that working with different people and different agencies take a while, but really just trying to understand that those processes take a while, not get frustrated with them, and just let's keep checking the boxes and moving the needle slowly forward so that we can get some more courses. But it's not just about more courses, even upgrading courses that currently exist. So there's courses around here that we have that are tonal courses, and there's some nostalgia about playing tonal courses. Um, that's kind of cool. But if there's opportunity to work together with local clubs or local organizations to help raise some funds and put baskets in place, then let's do that, right? So, like I said, sort of course design, but not necessarily this is where the tee pad goes, this is where the basket's going to go, but more sort of as that sport administrator again, facilitating all the pieces to actually come together in the most efficient manner possible.
Well, I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot in terms of course design. In a lot of scenarios, you see a smaller town get its first disc golf course. And the thing about a disc golf course is I mean, I always use Nashville as an example just because it's, fresh on my mind. But every one of our courses fills a very specific hole or a very role in our community. You know what I mean? And as we develop new ones, we're taking that into consideration. What is going to serve the community best? What does the community need out of a new course? There are a lot of times you'll see a course pop up in a smaller town that doesn't have very many disc golfers, and it's an awesome course. Maybe it's a super challenging gold level course,
Yeah.
but you've got 7 disc golfers in the town. And is that course going to be something that a new player can come out and experience and walk away excited to play their next round and get their first discs? And or are you in a town that has 20 courses within an hour's drive, but you don't have one gold level championship course that can challenge the best caliber of players?
Yeah.
And everywhere in between those two ends of the spectrum. So being responsible in those decisions when going to put a new course in the ground, I think that's vital, especially when you're looking at how many new courses are going in the ground, how many of them are going to be there in 5 to 10 years. So
Yeah. we don't want the golf epidemic, right? Like where there was a massive explosion and then all of a sudden now golf courses. I mean, trust me, I've looked at this, and maybe this is just my crazy personality, but I've looked at golf courses for sale, and if I was in the United States, I tell you, there would definitely be some golf courses that I would buy and repurpose
Yeah,
them.
for sure. I mean, you're
um,
starting to see it happen. A lot of these golf courses that are surviving that downturn in golf participation are incorporating disc golf into their operations.
yeah.
So,
Well, and that's part of it too, right? Is looking at, let's not just put 9 baskets or 18 baskets in the ground and maybe a couple signs for tee pads if you wanted to keep it really simple and as cheap as possible. But what are you doing within the community to actually support the use of that course and the growth of that course, right? Like, um, is there a local real, is there a local store where we can sell the discs, right? So that we can help bring in some revenue into the local economy as well, right? Maybe it, like, I just played a course that was set up at it's a plays around the local hospital. Well, can the hospital administration rent discs out to somebody to go around? I mean, maybe that's not the right spot for that, but I know that there are communities where you can go to the library, rent out discs, go play the course, then you return the disc back to the library, right? Like, is there ways that we can facilitate? I don't just want to go and slap 9 baskets or 18 baskets in the ground somewhere. I want to actually facilitate the growth and the use of these and the growth of the sport through, do we run like a par 2 event? Do we run a trilogy challenge? Do we run some kind of academy or clinic or whatever to sort of help kick off the event? Do we partner it with like a bigger event to help make it a something, right? Like trying to figure out, thinking outside the box and going, let's not just put 9 baskets in and hope that people don't hang meat from them and try to cook them in a barbecue, right?
right.
Like, let's let's actually showcase these. Let's teach the community what they're for and encourage people to use them and say, hey, you can buy discs at your local sports shop. You can rent them from the library, or here's a website that you can go to if you wanted to buy some. You know what I mean? Like, how can we, like, not just, I don't know if you're familiar. You seem like somebody who might watch The Simpsons to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
the
I
monorail.
haven't followed it regularly in years, but yes.
The monorail. You don't just come in, build a monorail, and then take off, right?
Right. Very
But
good
I don't
comparison.
want you to come in, slap baskets down, and then leave and go, oh, we sold a bunch of baskets, or I got another course in the ground. Let's all celebrate.
Yeah.
That's not serving the purpose of what this is all about. And so there needs to be, the biggest piece is having a champion in that community, right? And somebody's going to help you champion that piece in the community, but then truly not just, like I said, slapping a monorail down and taking off, but empowering the community. It's all the stuff that we talked about through the whole podcast. You're empowering the people within that community to take ownership of it and make it their own, right?
Hmm.
Let them come up with whatever crazy kind of culture they want. Like, if they want to paint all the tops of their baskets fluorescent pink, have at her, right? Like, if that's something that's important to your community, then let's make a party of this. Let's get everybody in town, hand out spray cans, and let's give her, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that is that gray area, that non-binary approach to administration in this game that gets harder and harder to do. It gets harder and harder to accommodate for those personal touches the more people are playing, and the bigger that the membership gets. And I think that is it, and something you touched on as far as just not disagreeing or being in opposition to the PDGA, and that being your motivation for running. I mean, I agree. I think the PDGA gets a lot of feedback that they don't deserve. I think there's a lot of misinformation about what they do, about what they don't do, and I think they take a bad rap a lot of the time. And I've come to know a lot of the people on the staff there at the PDGA, and I mean, talk about big-hearted, passionate people, and the patience of saints to continue with
yeah.
what they've done for so long. So but do I agree with everything they do all the time? No. I've been really frustrated lately through this whole 5-step process implementation and stuff. And that's just because I've been frustrated. That doesn't mean that, that the PDGA needs to disappear or something, or that I want my dues refunded to me or anything like that. It's, if you want something to change, be a part of it. I think, even if everybody on the board of directors is just total disagreement with each other, hey, let's keep talking, because when people disagree about stuff, that's when new ideas happen. That's when new ways of doing things come about and things improve.
Yeah.
So it's all about collaboration and cooperation and working together. As disc golf continues to grow, we want it to grow but not lose the feeling and all of the soul, the heart and the soul of it that make it so special to us. And I think that's really anybody that has it within them to really pursue a position on the board of directors like that. I think you've kind of got to have that passion and that caring about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you and I've been doing this TD promoter thing for a little while, and it's, we're not in it for the ego boosts. I mean, I think if you were, you'd
I don't.
be out of your mind.
Well, I don't think I. Well, I mean, there's the. I saw it scrolling through some of my photos today, and it was like, it's something the effect of like complaining. Have you volunteered yet?
Yeah. Before you complain.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I mean, honestly, like I really encourage people to do that. Like, if people think that people who TDing event or TD doing running events or making money or making bank and going home laughing here, there's
Very little of
yeah,
that
there,
going on.
right. Well, but just like even as like I said, as a sport administrator, so as the chair for disc golf in Manitoba for the last whatever it was year and a half before I moved here to Alberta, the amount of time I spent on my computer, on my phone, in meetings, doing things on my own dime, driving places or setting things up or going to pick something up or uh, whatever it was. There's countless number of things. You and I could come up with a gigantic list of things where we probably contributed on our own dollar, our own time. Um, and that's part of it, though. I'm not asking for any of that back. I really, truly am not asking for any of that back because I'm not doing it with the um, that perspective. Like we had somebody apply to work with us on the committee for disc golf in Manitoba, and I asked him to do a couple things, and he's like, "Oh yeah, but what about are you gonna compensate me this, that, and the other?" And I was like, "Well, no, that's part of being a volunteer." And he's like, "Oh, but in my work career, I bill my time at such and such dollars per hour, and so if you're asking me to do this, then I should be compensated with X and X and X." And I'm like, I don't think you're the right person for this. And so he ended up not being on our committee, and I think that was for the better part of it, right? So because I mean, you have a doctor that works with you. He bills his time out, and I'm sure at a very high amount, but he volunteers tons of time, right? And it's not about like a dollar for dollar that you guys are. And so that's part of it. Is like I said, I would give all that time all over again, without a question, because I've seen the positive results of it. And I mean, part of it too is the flack that I mean, I've taken a lot of hate messages on text or on social media. People like, "This is stupid. I can't believe this is what you're asking us to do or wanting us to do or this, that, and the other." And I'm like, I'm not doing this for my own personal gain. I get zero out of this. I'm asking you to do this because I truly believe this is in the best interest of moving forward. Um, and so it's going to be the same with the PDGA, right? So the people who are in position right now are doing their absolute best because, like you said, they're disc golfers and they want to do the best they can with what they have to make the sport better for everybody. Is everybody going to agree? No. But at least they're out there putting in the effort, right? So
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to make a living from disc golf, and I think that people that have been able to turn some kind of a profit from administration in the sport have gotten a whole lot of undue negative feedback as well. But I mean, let's be honest, like you're up against a tough incline if that's your goal. And I think part of, what motivates me and people like us is let's push this sport and get it to a place where more people can follow their dreams
Amen.
and hopefully develop a career and a livelihood from being involved in something that they're passionate about, that they care
Yeah.
about. And
Yeah, for sure.
that's part of growing this too. It's not just having more events, more courses, more people playing the sport. It's also let's make the sport more viable and sustainable,
Yeah.
and rewarding for people to put effort into it. But so in order for that to happen, it takes boots on the ground that are more concerned with the good of everybody involved than they are with fattening their pocketbook. So
Leave the sport better than you found it, right?
absolutely. And that's it seems generalized and cliche, but you can do it in small ways all the time that add up to a really big impact. You can pick up a little piece of trash or two when you go out to play around, everything from that up to running for a board of directors. So
Yeah. All of it matters. And that's where I want people to be as well, is that doesn't matter if you're the one picking up the garbage on the course or you're the one sitting on the board on a PDGA position. Everybody's job matters. You just have a different role. And I mean, and that's just because, say, you and I get onto the board, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop picking up trash,
right.
right? But we can
Yeah,
all have.
I could see the Facebook posts about that, or that Mark Oxer, he got erected to the PDGA board and he stopped picking up trash.
But different people have different functions, and that's totally okay. It's totally okay, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Well,
Sorry,
dude, we're
man.
pushing 2 hours,
Yeah.
and that flew by.
Yeah.
But dude, thank you for taking the time to talk about it. I'm excited for what you've got going on up there, and I hope that we get a chance to have you back in Nashville in more of a casual setting at some point in the future. Maybe next time you come down to visit Darren or your sister, we can arrange a couple days of maybe showing you some of the courses you didn't get to see when you were here last.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
So for anybody that has watched this or is watching this or maybe is just now tuning in live that is not familiar with you, now they know you're running for the PDGA Board of Directors, is there a brief statement that you might give them in closing on why you think they should vote for you?
I think I'm trying to think of all the things that we've talked about and how I could summarize that up into one sentence, but I really truly think it is that it's about just passionately growing the sport, leaving the sport better than they found it, and just being able to have future generations possibly have opportunities that we didn't have, but also that in the immediate there's opportunities for us to grow the sport and improve the sport for where we're at right now.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
That's a good way to end it. And on that note, from everybody in Nashville, on behalf of the guys on the show that couldn't make it here with us tonight, I want to say thank you and
Thank you.
best of luck to you going forward with the PDGA run and with all your other endeavors. And I'm looking forward to us being able to work together with the disc golf modular courses that you guys are developing too.
Yeah.
So, and everybody stay tuned for that. That's going to be something we've got coming on.
Yeah, we're really excited.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, from way down south, again, thank you and have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thanks a lot, Will.
We'll see
Take
you
care.
soon, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Let the bass kick.